it's time to use our homemade Bisquick baking mix to make some biscuits. All right, I have started to preheat my oven to 425 degrees Fahrenheit. When we make biscuits, it's at a pretty high temperature and they cook really quickly. Now I've also got my baking mix that I made, and this has flour, baking powder, salt, and lard cut into it. So it's already mixed up. I only need to add one more ingredient to turn this into biscuits. So here's my bowl, and my biscuit recipe requires 2 cups of baking mix. So 1, 2, all right. There it is. And I need 3/4 of a cup of milk. So here is my 1 cup measuring cup. And here is my milk. I'm going to pour it right in up to the line for 3/4 of a cup. There we are. All right. Now, one thing I do need to mix is a fork. For some reason, I like to use a fork to mix this. But you could use a spoon if that's better for you. All right, so I've got my mix in here, and I'm going to put a little well in the middle. A little, like say, put a well and a little hole, and I'm going to pour the milk all in. Now, biscuits, I find, don't need a huge amount of mixing. You just want to wet all of the ingredients. So what we have here is something that looks like a bit of a mess because it doesn't come together like a cake mix. It's sort of messy and lumpy. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to scrape this off of my fork. And this is how I do it, is I put a little bit of baking mix on the counter. Whew, my oven is ready. There we go. So that's what I'm going to dump this onto. And I'm going to put it all onto the counter here so that it all goes in. I'm getting my fingers in this too. And I'm going to try and get all of the bits off of the bowl this way and dump it all out on the counter. I'm going to try and get all of the wetness and all of the dryness and everything out of the bowl just with my fingers. So you can see it's not even well mixed yet, but that's okay. It comes together nicely from here. So here we have this mixture, and I'm going to fold it and bring it together. See how messy and raggedy it looks right now? I'm going to bring it together and fold it over and bring it together, all on this dry mix that's on the counter. There we go. And the reason why I fold it rather than mix it is because I want it to have all those really nice flaky layers that make biscuits special. I want to keep some of that dryness on the bottom because when I cut these into biscuits, I don't want the dough to stick to the counter. So here I go. I've got it mostly all in one shape, and I'm not really particular about making it any kind of really nice shape because I'm going to cut it into biscuits anyway, and I'm just pushing it down here so it's about even. Now, depending on whether you like thin biscuits or thick biscuits, you can decide how thick you want this to be. Now, some of us are lucky enough to have cookie cutters, but I will often just use the bottom of a juice glass. I'll put a little flour on, I'll use it, but here, I have a cookie cutter here that's round, and I'm going to cut biscuits out of here. There we are. There's one right there. And I'm going to put that onto a pan. Let's see what it would look like if I used a glass. See, this is just a water glass. I can do that too. shake it out, and there we go. So we have two beautiful biscuits there with different sizes. I'm going to do small ones so that I have lots. So I'm just cutting them out, and I am not really going over the edge of this dough that I've squeezed out with my hands onto the cupboard. So those are going to be the ones that are perfect and round. But look at all this dough that's left. What I do is I gather it together. I don't fold it. I just kind of push it together so that it can keep all those nice little flaky lines together. And squeeze it so that they're mostly touching. And then I will just cut some more out. And these ones will bake up into the most interesting biscuits because they will have more of an interesting texture on the top just because they're pieced together like this and I'm not overworking the dough. There we go, and I get to do that one more time. And you know what sometimes I'll do when I've got one last one? This is my snacking biscuit. So I might just put the last bits together on the pan, bake it up, and that's the one I feel free to have first because it doesn't look very perfect. So look, 2 cups of that baking mix made all of these biscuits. We're going to put those in the oven for 12 to 15 minutes. We'll set the timer for 12 minutes and then we'll check them and see if they're nice and toasty, and we'll go from there. The timer went off at 12 minutes and they just looked a little shade underdone. So we've given them 1 or 2 more minutes. So these biscuits will have been in the oven for about 14 minutes. Let's see what they look like. Oh my, oh my. Look at these. Aren't these delicious looking? Can you see all the flakes? The way they puffed up like that? Aren't they great? When they cool a little bit, you'll be able to pick them up and break them open and they'll be perfect for having butter or jam on them. But do you remember the one that I said was ours? This one over here that looks so lumpy bumpy. This is the one that we get to try because it doesn't look as good as the others. So I'm going to take a little piece out of this off the side and I'm going to taste that and see how it is. Oh my gosh, it's so hot. So good. You are so lucky to have this kind of baking mix in your house, and you can make biscuits like this anytime you want.